in our changing world, there's loads and loads of wonderful examples of companies that are emerging virtually out of the woodwork. But let me start by asking you three simple questions. I know that the answers are known to everybody, but just to focus on a couple of companies, let me start by asking you, which is the largest mobile phone company in the world? Any answers? Largest mobile phone company in the world? Apple. There, somebody has the answer. Which is the largest taxi company in the world? And which is the largest hotel operator in the world? Marriott, Airbnb, lots of answers. Well, I think the answers have all come out of this room, and the answers which are known to all of us are Apple, the biggest mobile phone company in the world, Uber, the biggest taxi company in the world, and Airbnb, the biggest hotel company in the world. But what is a bit different about all these companies is that Apple does not own a single factory in the world. Apple does not manufacture a single mobile phone anywhere in the world. What about Airbnb? Airbnb does not own a single hotel room in the world, and Airbnb does not operate a single hotel room in the entire world. And if you look at Uber, Uber does not own even one car or even one taxi anywhere in the whole world. Amazing, isn't it? And if you take this analogy a little further, one of the world's largest, or possibly at some point in time the largest company, used to be Intercontinental Hotels. Intercontinental, IHG it used to be called, Intercontinental Hotel Group. If you put Intercontinental Hotel Group and Hilton together, today Airbnb is larger than Intercontinental Group and Hilton put together. And if people are staying X number of nights in hotels, people are those very same people like you and me, are staying 2x nights in Airbnb. How crazy is this? And what is even more interesting is if you look at the valuation of these companies. Can anybody guess what the valuation of, let's say, Uber is? What is the value of Uber? There you go. 60 billion US dollars. Can anybody kind of figure out how many zeros there are in that if you take it in rupees? It is 4 lakh crores. Unbelievable. 4 lakh crores is the value of Uber, a company that does not own one car, that does not own one taxi anywhere in the world. Same way, if you look at Airbnb, their value is about half of that, which is 2 lakh crores for a company that does not own a single hotel room anywhere in the world. Taking this hotel analogy a little bit further, what is the response of the rest of the industry? These are values that are coming up. People are seeing this. Competitors are seeing this. What is coming up as a response? So, in the last 3 weeks, 2 major amalgamations have been announced. Accor has acquired a combination of 3 other companies. They've acquired Raffles, they've acquired Fairmont, and they've acquired Swiss Hotel. Accor, which is probably one of the largest hotel groups in the world, acquires 3 different companies within a matter of a week. Again, within the last 3 weeks, another response that has been noticed is the merger of Marriott and Starwood, which is a $12 billion merger. This merged entity will operate across more than 100 countries, will manage 1.1 million rooms, and will possibly become the largest operator of hotel rooms even in India, beating the Taj Group, which has been here for more than 100 and odd years by a fair margin. So this is radical. These kind of changes are going to have a very far-reaching and profound impact on our entire industry, and all of us have to rethink not only business models but the way we will start to do business with hotels, with car companies, with and even with airlines and so on, because that whole consolidation is not very far away. Now, how does this overall change or impact the corporate travel industry? It must be understood that business travel, more than any other business segment, is a lead indicator of economic activity in any country. It's a lead indicator of the time that is to come, how the GDP will behave, how the nation will move forward. And taking a look back, on what has been happening and the research that's been going on, I mean, there was a reference in the morning to the GBTA study. And that is a very definitive study which clearly says that the corporate travel market across the globe is a market which is going to be, which has been in the last year, in this year that we have just about to finish, about a $1.25 trillion industry. Huge, humongous. $1.25 trillion was the GDP of India 3 years ago or 2.5 years ago. So that's the kind of size that this industry is. And in this industry, the leaders obviously are the United States and China. United States is at $280 billion of corporate travel every single year, which means almost $1 billion on every working day, including Saturdays. Huge. And China is a very close second at $250 billion a year. Now, where does India figure in all this? India is approximately 1/10 the size of both these players, and India last year was just around $28 billion of corporate travel activity. Don't underestimate it. It's still a huge number, $28 billion of corporate travel activity. And the wonderful thing about India is its progress in the last 15 years. In the year 2000, India was at position 24 in the world. Our world ranking was number 24, and last year our world ranking was number 10. And the growth rates in India are possibly the highest growth rates in the world. Last year was not such a good year. The corporate travel business in India grew at almost 8%, and that was not a good year. And what is estimated is, over the next 4 to 5 years, India will grow at 13% per annum in the corporate travel arena. And at this growth rate, by the end of 2018, the run rate for India will be $50 billion of corporate travel activity in a year. This is huge growth, portends well for not only the travel and tourism industry, or at least the overall hospitality hospitality, travel industry, but also places a different kind of pressure on the corporates who need to buy $50 billion worth of corporate travel. These are very big numbers. The other significant difference between the Indian industry and the rest of the global industry is 90% of India's corporate travel business is domestic dominated and only 10% is international. And over a period of time, this is likely to change substantially, because in about a decade, this is likely to look like 75% domestic and 25% international. So there'll be a huge growth, a relative larger growth in the international segment that the Indian industry will generate. Now, taking this down to an individual level, we've talked about the world numbers, we've talked about a little bit about the India numbers and the shape and size of the India story. But if you look at individuals, there are some very interesting facts, and there are loads and loads of these facts, but I will take 4 or 5, which more than 50% of Indian travelers, this is how they behave. Okay? Very, very interesting. They averagely, more than half of our travelers take 4 to 5 trips a year. Corporate travelers, they take 4 to 5 trips a year. More than 50% of our travelers combine business with leisure and have someone join them either before or after the business trips. They expect the best-in-class technologies. They expect a Wi-Fi operated hotel. They even expect Wi-Fi in airplanes or even in cars or taxis and so on and so forth. So, and not only Wi-Fi, they expect a whole slew of other technological things to be available to them, so that's good. They normally, more than 50% of our corporate travelers would, at most times, like to get an upgraded room. They would like to spend more on good food. They would like to take the shortest possible route between 2 destinations, if not at least the lowest travel time between 2 destinations. And look at this one, are rated as amongst the worst cribbers in the whole world. Thank you very much. So these are some of the things that are cross-segment, across everything. And as we go forward, there's a lot of disruption coming. Whether it's at the global level, or it's at the India level, or it's at the individual consumer level. So all these things are going to be subject to huge disruption, and this disruption is going to be led by consumer preferences, consumer behavior. That is what is going to drive these big disruptions. And while there are lots of disruptions that are normally talked about, I think I am going to talk about maybe the top 4 or 5 disruption patterns that are emerging. Not individual disruptions, but the patterns which are much more relevant to all of us as we see them. So the first big change is the demographic change in the corporate business traveler. The kind of person who's traveling today is possibly senior manager, all of that. There is a profile of that traveler, but that profile is changing radically. The first is the growth of the millennials. Who are the millennials? The millennials are the younger generation. The average millennial is aged between 16 years and 30 years and behaves radically different from the traveler that we knew. So the millennial is averagely spending 3.2 hours a day on his mobile phone. Radically different. Are you and I spending 3.2 hours a day on our mobile phone? No. But the millennial is. So I think that's changing a lot. In fact, 25% of corporate travel bookings in the United States are coming from the mobile phones of millennials. So this is a trend to watch out for. This is something that we all need to look out for. What else are these millennials displaying? They are saying, we want Wi-Fi everywhere. Even if we go to hell, the first question we'll ask is there Wi-Fi in hell? Wi-Fi, okay? Grab and go meals, okay? They don't want to sit and have a meal or, like the French spend 3 to 4 hours on every lunch. I mean, that is history as far as millennials are concerned. They want Uber on their phones. They want Airbnb. They want cashless payment systems, the Paytms of the world. However, 52% of travel agents around the world are reporting higher bookings from millennials. Shock. And 30% of millennials are saying that they are booking exclusively through travel agents. Unbelievable. What's going on? Well, something is going on, and we need to figure out what this something is. So this is the first demographic change. Of course, this is 1/3 of that demographic change. There are 2/3 of this demographic change which are also going to impact us as we go forward. The second part relates to women travelers. The women travelers today constitute 25% ballpark of all travelers. Okay? But women travelers, the numbers are going to grow 9 times in the next 15 years. 9 times they are going to grow in the next 15 years, which is a huge difference. And their needs are different. They want different things. Social safety and security for them are prime importance. Cleanliness has a different meaning. Fitness, connectivity, precise planning in good time. The needs are different, and therefore this is going to cause a huge change in the way the response of the various industry partners is going to be. Equally, if you look at the third part of that segment, that is seniors. In fact, one specific study refers to them as men of a certain age, mochas. So these are people who are 50 years and above. They're normally at fairly senior positions, and this segment is going to grow 6 times in the next 15 years. These are big numbers, and that will change the face of, so the combination of millennials, women, and mochas are going to change the face of this whole travel experience. And those kind of people who can respond effectively to this big demographic change are going to be hugely, hugely successful, while others are going to fall by the wayside. So this is one big change, the demographic change, the new segments emerging, millennials, women, and seniors. What is the next big thing that is changing? Of course, we already referred to it in various ways, but the big change is the advent of mobile phones. Not rocket science, everybody knows mobile phones are gaining popularity, but let me start on a different note in this whole domain. How many of you use desktops or laptops? Quite a few. Very good. I'm sorry, I have real bad news for all of you. Desktop computing is on its deathbed. Within the next 3 years, it is estimated that desktop computing as we have known it, and possibly even laptop computing, are going to be virtually dead. So please do not go out and invest in a new desktop or a new laptop, because this whole sphere is going to vanish very, very shortly. If it doesn't vanish in 3 years, 3.5 years, maybe 4 years, but it's going to vanish. Around the world, 60% of consumer time is spent on online devices, mobile online devices. Okay? And Yahoo has reported that 67% of their customers access Yahoo from mobile phones. I mean, there are some companies who are trying this in India, Mintra, Jabong, all of these. They are saying we are only accessible on the mobile phone. So I think travel is not far behind, and this whole revolution is going to change that scenario. Mobile is truly going to be the game changer in the months and years to come, and is possibly going to be the single most important travel companion as we go forward. So what do people use their mobile phones for? Roughly about half of all users use them to book activities, either pre-trip, in-trip or post-trip. 3/4 of them use them for in-location services like booking a restaurant. And about 1/3 are saying we definitely want our mobile to be the single instrument for checking into a hotel, doing security and passing the gates at an airport, and so on and so forth. So there's lots of uses which are known today, but lots of unknown uses coming to the fore in the next months and years ahead. Of course, devices are always getting faster. They are becoming increasingly more durable and adding new features like mobile wallet, secure pay, all kinds of things. All that is getting added to the arsenal of mobile phones. The next level in, let's say, location services is going to be 3D, holograms, all kinds of these things which are right on the horizon. And clearly, it's already started, but it's going to be normal, is people are going to be able to use their mobile phones even on flights. So I think mobile is going to be a huge, big game changer as we go forward. So that's the second trend. The third trend is spends are going to increase hugely. But please remember, credit is dead. This is going to be a radical change. If you look at the global scenario, then what is going on? In 2008, already for the first time, more than 50% of the world's population was starting to live in large cities. This year, that number has increased to 53% of the world population. More than 53% of the world population lives in large cities. And it is expected that by the end of this decade, there will be 30 mega cities around the world, each one with a population of more than 10 million people. Out of this, possibly 5 mega cities might be in India. Okay? Huge numbers. And these mega city to mega city transfers themselves are going to become a challenge, which is why the new A380 produced by Airbus can possibly take up to 800 passengers in one go. Because these mega city transfers are going to dictate, what happens. And Asia, as we all know, is going to be the crucible of global travel, especially global corporate travel. China is estimating that by the end of the decade, they will have 130 million corporate travelers across the world. Now, these are big numbers. Of course, a lot of it will still be domestic, but the numbers are quite huge. Also, what is interesting is that the Indian traveler, and this, unfortunately, we don't have data on a breakup between leisure and corporate, but the Indian traveler averagely is going to spend, there's one study at least that says, is going to spend in 2016 $4,501 per trip, averagely, during 2016. So these are big numbers. I mean, now we are approaching global scales, and that is part of the reason we are going to be at $50 billion by the end of the decade. Now, if you look at the world's multinationals or the unicorns, as we call them, companies with values of greater than 1 billion, then a very small number have been in the emerging markets. Maybe about 10 to 15% of all very large global companies have been in the emerging markets. But it is estimated that within the next 10 years, over 50% of the unicorns, over 50% of the companies which have sales and values and other things of more than $1 billion a year will be based out of the emerging markets. And that's a sea change. And how is all this going to be managed? I mean, like Kala was saying, I guess, that things are moving in the arena of digitization, of online, of computerization, of technology, of all of that. So that whole domain is what's going to lead the management of the corporate bookings in the cases of these companies. And so self-booking tools and payment mechanisms like CTA, BTA, and so on and so forth, and criticality of policy adherence, these are going to be some of the things which are going to become critical for companies, but electronically devised so that there is very little human intervention. But that technology interface will also ensure that credit will vanish. And I think those companies that either buy or sell on credit are going to become true dinosaurs. So I think while there's still time, one must explore what's going on in the payment mechanisms industry, what's going on in this mobile wallets industry, what's going on with CTAs and BTAs, and so on and so forth. So I think this is a big change which is likely to occur in the next 3 years. The fourth piece that I want to talk about is deep personalization. And this is a completely crazy trend which we cannot even imagine today. This is being led by a whole slew of things, including artificial intelligence, augmented reality, wearables, and personal assistants like Siri and Cortana, and loads of stuff which is yet to come. So I think this will lead to dynamic packaging, service bundling, different pricing, and individualization of products that are available and services that are available, and how the individual is going to consume stuff. So I think this is deep penetration and deep personalization is something that we need to truly watch out for, because don't forget, in the next 2 to 3 years, we are going to see rampant use of the Internet of Things, where it is estimated that in the next 10 years, 60 billion devices will be connected to our systems, to our mobile phone, for example. The collective mobile phone population of the world will possibly have 60 billion devices connected to them. And these devices could be your refrigerator, it could be your light bulb in the house, it could be the speakerphone in the child's room, all kinds of mad things. So this whole thing needs to be watched very, very closely. And the end point of this, as far as corporate travel is concerned, is that the individual customer is going to demand one end-to-end provider. I think this whole place of, I go to XYZ for my visa, maybe I go to this provider or that provider, I go to that fellow to help me with my passport, or I go here for my airline tickets if it's domestic, and somewhere else for international, and then there is a foreign exchange element, and then there is an insurance element and all of that. I think the individual customer is going to demand one end-to-end solution. If that solution is found online, offline, here, there, on my mobile phone, on my iPad, wherever it's found, it's going to be one end-to-end provider, and especially in times of crisis. Because what are we seeing? We are seeing that black swan events are growing in intensity and frequency. Look at the Chennai floods. Look at earthquakes. Look at volcanoes. Look at all the stuff that is going on around the world. Equally, terrorism is becoming all pervasive. And people want that single point to provide everything. Whether it's a crisis, whether it's normal circumstances, whether the flight is missed or cancelled, and seamless, integrated, seamless, end-to-end solutions will be the only answer as deep personalization takes root. So I think this is a very interesting trend which needs to be watched. And the last big trend, which I want to talk about is new distribution capability. Also referred to popularly in the industry as NDC. And this is a new initiative of IATA, which at one level has the potential to sound the death knell of the travel distribution industry as we know it. Whether it is a consolidator, whether it's a wholesaler, whether it's a travel agent, small agent, big agent, all of that whole distribution chain, it could result in being the death knell of that whole industry. But equally, with dynamic offers and unique bundles, what is likely to happen is ancillary sales are going to be pushed up to levels which are higher than primary sales. So you buy a ticket for $29.99, airline ticket, but your seat preference costs you $10, your baggage costs you $20, something else, the food costs you another $7, and if you want to go to the loo, that will cost you an extra $1, and so on and so forth. So I think we all have to be a bit careful. Now clearly, this is an open platform. It's end-to-end collaboration between the various providers. There's predictive analytics at work here. There's locational intelligence working here. And there's multimodal integration. The airlines, the rail networks, the bus services, the car company, everybody is coming together in a manner and providing unique solutions. But we also have to be careful, and over a period of time, of course, bullet trains and others will get added into this. But the big issue that's likely to emerge is huge amount of conflict between the three diverse, let's say, pillars of the whole corporate travel business, which is companies for whom a well-managed policy enforcement is absolutely critical. I don't want anybody to deviate from my company policy. For me, that is sacrosanct. This is the need of the company. What is the need of the individual? I want my convenience. Preferably, I want to book with those airlines or those companies where I have a loyalty card so that I can use those points afterwards, and so on and so on. So individual travelers' needs are a little bit more different from that. And as we go forward, the providers like airlines, hotels, and everybody, they are trying in today's times to enhance their revenues any which way they can. Can I charge you double for cancellation? Oh my God, and so on and so forth. So a lot of these things are coming to the fore, but this is what all of us will have to think about and how we are going to deal with this situation. So at a strategic global level, these are the 5 big things, which is demographic changes, millennials, women and seniors, mobiles, the advent of mobiles into our whole business, spends going up but credit vanishing over the next 2 to 3 years, deep personalization happening, and new distribution capability emerging where a lot of changes could be ushered in. Of course, there's a lot of low-level tactical things which can also be mentioned, but just in passing, which is that hotel prices will go up in 2016, airline prices will go up, meeting incentives, conference exhibition costs will go up, cancellation costs will significantly go up, digital marketing will be all over the place and very, very invasive to your privacy. And luckily for us, the only thing that will not go up is car rentals, because the prediction is that might stay flat or even go down a little bit. Now, the sum total of all this is a lot of radical changes on the horizon, especially in the managed corporate travel business. And what I personally would urge both the buyers and the sellers to do is to change along with these changes, otherwise we will all regret it. Thank you very much.